total sense. So it feels like we're on the right track here. Is there an interesting analog in contracting, I think, where discovery is like a critical aspect of sales process, right at the beginning. And I say that to build a deal is a bit like building a house. Like nothing you do later on, like painting the damn thing or putting a roof on, matters if you don't invest in a solid foundation. And so what's the foundation that you refer to in step 6 that's the number one redlines destroyer?
The number one redlines destroyer is having good paper in the first place, right? So a lot of the challenge is that I told you the buyers, I'm going to constantly do that, mix buyer and seller all the time, but the buyer's paper always worst case scenario, right? So you've already got somebody that's not close to the finish line. And then oftentimes what happens with sellers, especially if they're early stage, is they borrow their contract from a buddy, or they get it off the internet, or they have it done by a lawyer who's giving them a great document in terms of protecting the company, but that's not necessarily a market-driven agreement. It's not driven to close the deal, because I think, and I've been this lawyer, right? I've been the law firm lawyer that wrote the SaaS agreement for my customer without thinking about who are they selling to, what are the sellers going to demand, and most law firm lawyers don't have that volume experience so that they know what the market requires. So the number one redline destroyer is having good paper. It's easy to read, and I mean it's easy to read by a layperson, right? Like it's your sales guy should absolutely understand it. It should be no mystery. We remove as much Latin as possible. We are active voice. It's easily read. It's simply organized, and it's just kind of plain English document so that people can get through it. I mean, even lawyers have a hard time getting through documents, right? They're full of prepositional phrases and Latin, and so it's just really simplified. It's user friendly, and then and it's also market driven. It's driven based on your product, the risk imposed by your product, the kind of data you're handling, and the kind of risk that might be associated with working with a company in your life cycle.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know what happened to it. Maybe you can reflect on this briefly, a tangent conversation. In the 90s, there was a movement for plain English language contracted. And I remember distinctly reading for the first time a document that said things literally like, if you do not pay us on the date we agreed, we will charge you 1% interest per day. Now, if you put that into the terms that's normally included in a contract, you wouldn't know what the hell was. I mean, what happened to that, Karin? Is that still a thing, plain English contracts, or did it fade away because no one was making enough money interpreting contracts?
I think it is still a thing. I do hear it spoken. You hear it talked about among lawyers, a small segment of lawyers, I would say. I think part of the challenge is that we're creatures of habit, and it's a little bit of a heavy lift to take documents that are written in a particular way and simplify them in a way that's easy to understand, because as I said, we're creatures of habit. We're used to reading things a certain way. And I do think there's a little bit of professional protectionism, if you will, that, if I make this too easy, who needs me?
I think so.